Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I am Dana K. White. I share my personal deslobification process. As I figure out ways to keep my own home under control, I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people, people who don't love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 477, and I think I'm going to call it Noncommittal Experimentation. So this is one of those things I think a lot about and that I remind myself personally is incredibly powerful, especially when I am facing something that feels impossible or difficult or like I've always failed before. What would make me think this time is different? I remind myself that there is so much power in non-committal experimentation. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean non-committal, meaning I am not making a big commitment. I am not saying I'm going to do this thing forever. I'm not saying I'm going to do it this way ever again. I am just going in with low expectations with the mindset that I'm going to experiment. I'm just going to see if this way works. And because it's an experiment, if this doesn't work, then I get to try the next thing because that's what experimenting means, right? The goal of non-committal experimentation is to relieve the pressure that I feel that keeps me from doing anything. That feeling of being overwhelmed, that feeling of pressure, but I don't necessarily understand why this feels like pressure. And sometimes I can think through it and go, well, this feels like pressure because the last time I tried this, my pants fell down in front of the whole student body during cheerleader tryouts in 7th grade, whatever. Okay. Like sometimes you can figure that kind of stuff out and it can be very helpful to work with a therapist to do that. I am not a therapist. And when I feel that pressure, even though I think that, oh, I bet I have to figure out why in order to be able to move forward, if I can instead say, how can I non-committally experiment here? I find that more quickly, more effectively relieves that pressure that allows me to be able to get started and move forward. So a couple of things that might be situations where I would practice non-committal experimentation would be big goals that seem unreachable, things that seem so far away. So ultimately, non-committal experimentation is what I did when I started A Slob Comes Clean, the blog back in 2009. I knew that my house was a total disaster and that I had tried so many times before. And I had this big goal that felt completely unreachable. The big goal was to have a house that was not a complete disaster. I wanted a house that was organized, that I wasn't bewildered by, that I enjoyed and could open the front door whenever I wanted to and have people over whenever I wanted to. That's what I wanted. But it was so far away from where I actually was that it felt unreachable. And because of that, there was so much power in the non-committal experimentation of what I was doing. So if you're listening, hi, but I had somebody who was at an event recently who was saying, do you think journaling is the answer? And to be completely honest, no, I think non-committal experimentation is the answer. It was not the writing down of it that was what changed my home. What I was writing about that I was doing was changing my home. The things I was doing, the dishes I was washing, the trash I was getting out, the items that I was putting into the place where I would look for it first, as I just figured all that out by doing it the wrong way. I mean, if you go back, because they're still up there, but the very first video I ever put on YouTube, I think it was in 2013, I'm not sure, No, it would have been sooner than that. Anyway, very first video I ever put on YouTube was me taking everything out of a drawer and putting it into a box and then just putting back what I thought we needed. I don't know what happened to that box of stuff. I'm pretty sure it sat there for a really long time after, but I was just doing that because that's what I thought you had to do, because I'm pretty sure I had heard somebody say this is what you should do to declutter. Pull everything out, put it in a box, and just put back what you need. And now I know, if you're new here, spoiler, now I know that's the very worst thing for me to do, right? But it was better for me to do that in the way that I eventually learned was the very worst way for me to do it than to not do it at all, right? It was experimentation. It was me figuring out, does this work? Does it help for me to do the dishes every day? Does it make an impact for me to throw away trash? Does it make sense to my brain for me to put something in the place where I would look for it first? Does that end up meaning that I find things in the first place where I look for it? You can't know until you've done it. I couldn't know until I did it. And so the power of me starting a blog was not in the writing. The power was in the non-committal experimentation. Now, in case you are new and you don't know what I'm talking about, when I started A Slob Comes Clean back in 2009, which all those posts that I wrote are still there. Like, you can go back and read them. When I started that, I didn't think it was my real blog. I thought it was a practice blog. I thought it was temporary. I was using a fake name. I had no intention of anyone ever finding out that it was me writing that stuff. It was extremely non-committal. It was just me saying, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if this would help. And the doing of that is what ultimately changed my home. Okay. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure, which I know so many of you, if you are struggling in your home, you are feeling pressure. And I would feel pressure and I would get extra frustrated because I would think, why am I feeling so much pressure? I don't understand why this seems to be so much pressure. And then other people who seem to do this don't seem to feel any pressure at all. And it seems to be easy for them. And so just the existence of the pressure was overwhelming to me as well, right? Other reasons why I felt this pressure, this overwhelm, was that I had failed so many times before at this. It's not like I had never done my dishes, but it had never made a lasting impact. I'd never been able to keep up with keeping my kitchen clean. Okay. Here's the thing. The non-committal part is powerful because it removes the possibility of failure. I'm not making a commitment. I'm not saying I'm going to start doing this thing every day for the rest of my life. I'm not saying I'm no longer going to bring anything into my home. I'm not saying I am going to start doing this thing perfectly. But y'all, that's what I used to do. I can remember, and I still will find myself doing this about other things and catch myself because of what I've learned through the process of getting my house under control. I would lay in bed and I would map out in my head how everything was going to be different starting tomorrow. These are the things I'm going to do differently. I am going to force myself to always, always, always have the kitchen perfect and never let dishes pile up. I am going to force myself to pick up the stuff off the floor on a regular basis every day. I'm just going to do that. I am going to stop accidentally setting things down on the dining room table. I am going to, and that was, it never worked, right? Like, I can remember so many times laying there and working it all out in my head. But because I was only working out in my head, I was able to be super duper elaborate in what I was working out in my head. And then in reality, I had basically already failed before I ever even got started, because all the things I was going to do starting tomorrow, even if I did try a few of them, because usually I was just so overwhelmed the next day when I actually saw what it was that I would be dealing with instead of it being in my brain, I was like shutting down before I even got started. But even if I did get started, there was no way I could do all the things I had imagined doing the night before, right? But non-committal experimentation means part of what I am doing right now is not making a commitment. Like that is as valuable as anything else. Purposefully not making a commitment and instead taking action without the commitment is the thing that allows me to actually take the action. And taking the action is what's actually going to change my home, right? So the goal, of course, is to start doing more. The goal is, of course, to start doing it consistently. And yet, that's not a doable goal. That's what I want. But in order to ever get there, I need to get started. And to get started, I'm not going to make a commitment to doing all these things or even to doing this forever. I'm just going to do it right now. Okay. I'm not making promises to myself. Okay. So I am going to say something that might be controversial, and also I'm sure you could scrutinize it and tear it apart, but I'm just going to say it for our purposes here. Okay. I think non-committal experimentation is more effective than determining to keep your promise to do something. Keeping a promise is really important, right? Like let your word mean something. I get it. But that's not a strategy, right? And for somebody who's like me, who really has struggled with this, I struggled with my home and keeping it under control and getting it under control and keeping my dishes done and not having everything be a mess all the time. I used to think, okay, this time I've got to make the promise and I've really got to mean it. But here's the thing, I meant it the time before. I wasn't flippantly making a promise. I wasn't purposefully saying something that I wasn't actually going to follow through on. I was making a real promise. And then I still failed. And so not only did I not get my house under control, I also felt like a terrible person for having made this promise that I ended up not being able to keep. And so the non-committal experimentation is what actually got me started, that got me to the point where I wanted to be in a way that this time I better mean it never actually did. That mentality of I've got to keep my promises to myself, that didn't actually help me. But what helped me was giving myself permission to say, you know what, I'm going to do this thing, even though I don't know how it's going to end. I don't have confidence that this time I'm actually going to follow through. I don't have confidence because I don't have anything to base that confidence on, but I'm still going to do it because I'm doing it non-committally. And doing it is what actually changed my home. Doing it again and then again and then again is what produced consistency, but it didn't come from me at the beginning going, this time is going to be different. I mean it. Instead, it was this idea of it's okay to just non-committally experiment. So promises are great and they're important, but I had failed many times. I had broken promises to myself. And so trying to be different is not what actually worked. What worked was doing the thing. And I was able to do the thing because I gave myself permission to do non-committal experimentation. It's easier to not quit experimenting than it is to not quit something you don't know if it's the best thing to do. I don't know what that meant, but it's what it was in my notes. And so it was really, really powerful. Did everybody else get it? I don't think it did. It's hard if I say, you know what, this time I am going to start, like this is those of us who are always looking for a tip or a trick or this, great thing. I am going, you know what, if I will just put empty trash bags at the bottom of my trash can so that as soon as I take out a bag of trash, there's a empty trash bag right there and I can just put it on there. And I think this is what I'm going to start doing. And then maybe I do it once and I never even noticed the empty trash bag at the bottom, or maybe the trash bag that things were in kind of got a little bit gross and now there's grossness on the outside of the trash bag that was at the bottom. And I think, oh no, when that was my focus on this is going to be the way that I am no longer going to end up in a situation where my trash is out of control. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this trick, right? But I don't actually know how that's going to play out in real life. And so I am much less likely to continue with that trick, but I feel like a failure because I had decided ahead of time it was the best thing. If I give myself permission to experiment, then I am giving myself permission to say, I don't know yet what the best thing is. I'm just going to try to get my trash to not be an issue anymore. And that means that's going to be my focus. And I'm going to see, oh, okay, does it help me to set an alarm every other night to remind myself to take the trash out to the bigger trash can or whatever it is that we have? Does it help me to have the recycling bin right next to the trash can, even though maybe it's not the prettiest thing that I want, place that I want it in my house? Does it help me to put the trash bag at the bottom? Is that a good idea? There's a very different mentality that happens when I'm like, that's the idea. That's what I'm going to do starting now, versus I'm going to see if this works. Experimentation means I'm going to try it and then I get to tweak it and I get to go, you know what? Actually, that was not what was most helpful, but maybe I can change this one little thing about it. Oh, now I'm okay now. And then I change something else and I try something else, or I go, you know what? That doesn't really work, but I don't feel like a failure because it wasn't a commitment. It was just an experiment, right? And that was the point, was for me to figure out whether it did or didn't work for what I needed. So it's easier to not quit when I'm experimenting. It gives me permission to start. I have permission to make mistakes. I have permission to not keep doing things the same way as when I start, right? And that's that whole thing that all goes together. I started doing it this way. If it doesn't work, it's not a failure. I just switch to something else because this is experimentation. I'm just going to say, people like us tend to, if you relate to the way my brain works, right? We tend to want to fully, completely understand what we're about to do and the effect that it's going to have before we act. That's what I had done for years and years and years, 30 something years in my house, and it never worked. I always wanted to know that this is going to be worth my time, to know that this is going to work. Why should I try? I've tried everything else. I've got to know this is going to work. And so I would try different methods that people said were going to work, and it never worked. But it was mostly because I was going into it with that mentality. Instead, I needed to go into it with the mentality of seeing what will work. Let me see what will work. Let me experiment and know that I don't have to fully understand before I act. The best way for me to actually gain the understanding that I want is to experience it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what you might use this in. Like, how might you use non-committal experimentation in your life? Well, what is something that I talk about on the regular that you have not actually tried? What is something that you've said, I believe her, but I'm just not sure, or I think I get it, but I'm not quite sure I fully understand yet? Okay, I think that might work, because I get that from a lot of people. Like, I finally have hope because what you're saying makes sense to my brain. But it's another step to take the things you've learned in the podcast, the things you've learned in the videos, the things you've learned in my books. It is an additional step to take that into reality. Okay. So if you're finding yourself going, yes, yep, I think this is what's going to work for me, but then you can't actually take that step into implementing, non-committal experimentation is how to do that. Instead of saying, I'm going to do this the way that she said to do it. Say, I'm going to try doing this the way that Dana says works. So for a lot of people, it's dishes. I mean, you know, I was going to say that, right? The people who have gotten their dishes under control and have really started regularly keeping the dishes done will tell me that's where it is, right? Like that is the power. The power is in the doing of the dishes so that I can just start from a place of being at a head start as opposed to as a place of being behind when I need to get anything else done in my house. Like if I can just keep the dishes done, there's so much power in that. The ones who truly know that and believe it are the ones who did it, are the ones who experimented with it. Okay. So if you find yourself going, okay, Dana says that, and all these other people who come on her podcast, they all say it too. I know it's got to be true. I know my grandmother would have never even thought about going to bed without the dishes being done. I get it. Like I'm really, really grasping this, but I just can't seem to make myself do it. Go into it with the non-committal experimentation mindset. Say, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to do my dishes today, and then I'm going to time myself doing them tomorrow. Or don't even say I'm going to, just say I'm going to do my dishes today. I'm doing my dishes today. And then tomorrow, when you notice that it looks so much better in your kitchen, say, well, I'm going to experiment with 1 day's worth of dishes just to find out what it's like. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. But you're not going to think or say, oh, wow. Okay. All right. Until you do it. So the non-committal experimentation say, because here's the thing, our brains go, but the time I'm doing it right now, I'm not even home at this time tomorrow. So that's not going to work. And then, well, we're not going to eat it. We're going to eat out, or we're going to, do this. And then that's going to be a lot more dishes. And then all these different things. And you start coming up with all these things of the way it's going to work in the future. But there is a lot more power in saying, I'm just going to do them today, whatever the situation is, because I'm not committing. I'm just experimenting. I'm seeing what's going to happen. And that has a lot of power, right? Because your dishes are done, which is exciting. But also the things that you learn are going to have a huge impact on you going forward. Okay. It gives you permission to make mistakes. It gives you permission to not keep doing it the same way. Especially with dishes, like I try to convince you that it's going to have a bigger impact than you can possibly imagine, but you can't know that until you do them. So doing them non-committally, even if you don't believe me, even if you say there's no way they have that big of an impact, but also I know I need to do them. So I'm going to do them just to see, just to experiment. That's when you're going to know, and you're going to go, oh, now no one can take this understanding away from me. It's no longer theory. I am full on. I know for a fact the impact that doing the dishes every day makes, because I have experimented skeptically. I have skeptically experimented just to see what is going to happen if I actually do the dishes every day for 3 days or 5 days or a week, or just today. If I just do them today and then tomorrow I experiment again, its own new experiment with non-committal, if I'm going to do them again now, like those things are so powerful. Because here's what happens. If you go, all right, today I could do, because this is how my brain used to work. Today I could do the dishes, but tomorrow I won't be home at all. And so I won't be able to do them tomorrow to know what 1 day's worth of dishes are. So I probably shouldn't do them today. I should wait till 2 days from now. Well, I may not be in this probably won't be in this mindset at all in 2 days. If I'm in the mindset right now, I'm going to do the dishes right now. And if I'm way behind on dishes, then tomorrow when I can't do them, which I probably can at some point because there'll only be a few. If tomorrow I can't do the dishes, well, then the next day, 2 days worth of dishes is still going to be a lot less than I was catching up on before. Right. And then those 2 days, wow, that was a lot easier than the 5 days worth that I had done on the first day. And then that experience that comes from that non-committal experimentation is actually the thing that motivates me. I'm not motivated by theory. I am motivated by the fact that I know that if we do not run the dishwasher or hand wash if we have to, that it's going to for sure get way behind. Okay. So getting myself into this, like, let's just see what happens. Let's see so that I'll know, so that what I know will ultimately affect what I do. Because as long as I'm just guessing, it's not going to have that big of an effect. Okay. It's actually going to, usually the guessing is ultimately the thing that keeps me from getting started, because I'm guessing so hard and I'm putting all these really bad scenarios into play in my brain. And that's what keeps me from getting started. Visible spaces. If you have resisted the visibility rule, because you think, well, it's going to get messy again sooner because people come in that way all the time. Oh, there's not enough real clutter there compared to my attic. I really need to work in my attic. The visibility rule, for those of you who are new, is I recommend, and this is based on my own experience that I gained from experimenting, that you start decluttering in the most visible area, like the place where people would enter your front door, because it's going to be progress that you will see, and seeing that progress is going to inspire you to declutter again sooner. And that's how you build momentum in your home. But I know that a lot of people resist the visibility rule. No. This is a more deserving part of my house. The attic and the clutter up there, that deserves my time and my energy more than the place where people would enter my home. Maybe you say, I hear this one a lot. I don't come in at my front door. I come in the back, but you want me to start in the back door? What? Like, what if I don't see that as much as I see other places? Just start there. You have to have a place to start and experiment with it. See, because here's the thing, even if you experiment with the visibility rule and you end up deciding that it's wrong for you, you'll still have a decluttered space in your home. You will have your front door area, or wherever people come in, decluttered. Your house will be better off. I think I'm going to be right, and you are going to experience the power of prioritizing by visibility. But even if I'm wrong, even if your experiment proves me wrong, then you still have a space that's decluttered that wasn't decluttered before. Where as long as you are going, Dana says visibility rule, I don't think she's right. I think I need to do my attic. Oh, I just don't think, no, but she says it and she knows, and I listen to the podcast and blah. But I really think this, as long as you're in that, nothing's happening. You can non-committally experiment to declutter the attic first. If you think Dana says visibility rule, but I really think the attic is where I need to start in the attic. Because even though you are going to be wrong, I know that's me, but like, even if you do realize, oh, I should have started at the front door, because the thing she said that would happen, which is I spend all this time working and my house has nothing to show for it. Even though you will probably experience that you should have started in a visible space, you're still better off, right? Because you did start. You're going to learn that experimentally, or you could be right for you, and the attic is where you needed to start. Either way, you're actually doing the thing because you're experimenting and you're seeing what works. You're either going to know, you know what, actually, next time I declutter, I'm going to start in a visible space, or that was amazing. And either way, stuff has gone from your house. You've successfully made real progress in your house. Okay. Let's see. Next, starting with trash. People resist starting with trash. They can't imagine that they have trash. They can't imagine that it would make much of an impact to start with trash. Just try it. Try it. Say, this is probably not going to have an impact, but that doesn't actually matter, because what I'm doing right now is non-committal experimentation. I'm testing it. I'm just seeing if trash makes an impact. Take a before and after picture. That is part of the experiment. I mean, don't not do it if you don't have a way to take a picture, although you do, because you probably have a phone, but you're going to get to see the results of that. But whatever it takes to say, you know, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to see if it makes a difference to take a before and after picture. I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to experiment with just starting with trash. and see if it makes an impact. And it will. Even if you decide it didn't make that big of an impact, you'll still have gotten rid of trash. And getting rid of trash means that your house is better off, right? And looks better, and you've gotten started. Take it there now. This is the one. I mean, so many people resist this, and then they tell me, I finally tried it and it changed everything. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can not believe me. But if you're able to non-committally experiment with it, just to say, I'm not saying I'm going to do this every time, but I'm going to try it for this one thing and just see. Experience what happens when you do the take it there now. Experience how, oh, I'm actually done with that item. Oh, I actually don't have a pile here of things to do later. That experience is going to free you to know what you're doing the next time you declutter or as you continue decluttering. The best cure for TPAD is non-committal experimentation. So I had a comment on, I think it was a 1 hour better that I did with my friend Jane, who hosted an event in the Dallas area recently. And somebody commented that a timer had, racing timers had made her, she ended up with, I believe, heart problems, like maybe a heart attack. And so she was, racing the timer was very stressful to her. And I just want to be clear that I don't use timers to speed me up. Okay. And I think this is a great distinction to be aware of. The timer is not for the purpose of pushing me to race the clock. Okay. If I think that I am setting this timer and then I'm going to sprint for the whole time of the timer going, then I'm not going to start. I'm not going to set the timer. But if I know that the point of the timer is to cure my TPAD, it is literally, I'm just going to see how long this takes to do this item. I'm going to time myself doing this task, emptying the dishwasher, taking donations to a drop-off place. Like, I'm not setting a timer as a way to push myself to go faster. I am literally experimenting. I am seeing how long does it take me to load donations into my car with my actual physical ability. Like, what am I able to do? How long does it take me to drive to, the drop-off center? How long does it take me to sit there in line waiting for somebody to come help me get stuff out of my car? How long does it take me to get all the way back? Like, that's non-committal experimentation as opposed to go, 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 go. Because I personally am always going to resist the go, 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 go. That's just not appealing to me. But the timing of it then helps me in the future to say, okay, it took me 35 minutes to go drop off those donations. Now, when I have 35 minutes available, because I experimented with that, and non-committal experimentation, not a pushing myself, but a non-committal experimentation. Now, every time I have 35 minutes, that 35 minutes looks different to me because I think, oh, I can probably make a trip to the donation place in those 35 minutes, or I can empty my dishwasher and wipe down all the cabinets in those 35 minutes. Like, this is the reason, because I'm experimenting with it. I now know what to do. Okay. A 5-minute pickup. A 5-minute pickup is not for the purpose of rushing around and going crazy for 5 minutes. It is literally just, I'm going to stay focused for 5 minutes at the pace that my body and my brain allows me to move. For those 5 minutes, I'm going to move at that realistic pace and see what happens in those 5 minutes. See what I'm able to get done with my actual limitations in those 5 minutes. Do you see that distinction in how you're thinking of it and how powerful it is to let yourself get started? If I think I'm going to rush for 5 minutes, I will put off doing it. If I know that the 5 minutes, whether I get one item put away in that time or 10 items, whatever I happen to be able to do, I'm going to be better off. Okay. And I'm willing to do it because I have a non-committal experimentation mindset. Other things to try the container concept with your kids. See what happens. Designate a bin for this one item that just seems to keep growing and multiplying, and have them put their favorite things in first, and just tell them, hey, we're going to put our favorite things in first, and whatever doesn't fit, we'll get rid of. Just see if it works. Don't give the speech ahead of time on what the container concept is. Just experiment. Try using the no mess decluttering process with family members. Try printing it out and saying, this lady on the internet has this 5-step no mess decluttering process. You can get it at aslobcomesclean.com/5 if you don't have a printable of that. But this lady recommends that we do this. Try asking them to look for trash, and try not arguing over what is trash. Try letting them be the one to answer the question, where would you look for this first? And try putting it in that spot and see how it works. Like, this whole mindset shift into non-committal experimentation is so incredibly powerful. Non-committal experimentation is permission to learn. A good teacher acknowledges this, right? You've had great teachers and you've had teachers where you would get frustrated. A lot of times that is the difference. The teacher who acknowledges that this is a learning process, and that making a mistake is not the end. Instead, it's a way to learn and then keep on doing better as you continue. Those are the teachers who you loved, right? They're the ones who really taught you to do the thing. Give yourself permission to learn how to do the thing by experimenting. Okay. I hope I haven't gotten too bossy in this one, but if I did, I did, right? I hope it was helpful. And yeah, I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.